Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Travel Coach Network podcast. It is I, Sahar Rose Zavor, the founder and CEO of the Travel Coach Network and the creator and instructor of the Travel Coach Certification Program. Today, we have another member of the Travel Coach Certification Program in the TCN, Colleen O'Neill Mulvihill. She is a certified travel coach, holistic nutritionist, and a health coach. She's a published travel writer with over 60 articles published to date and has written for publications like Brains Magazine, Go World Travel, The Wellness Universe, and Maryland Road Trips, to name a few. With her passion for health and well-being driving her endeavors, she's created a holistic health and wellness website aimed for women over 40 who want to reclaim their health and vitality through travel. Having tackled significant health issues herself, she now helps guide other women towards their own path of holistic healing through her coaching, writing, and social media inspiration. Colleen, thank you so much for joining us on the TCN podcast today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Sahara.
Yeah, well, first, before we dive into all of this goodness about health and wellness, where did your love of travel stem from?
Well, it was interesting because growing up, I really didn't do a whole lot of traveling. We did some local travel. We went to the beach, which was about 3 hours from where we lived, and we did some camping, but we never did any international travel. And it wasn't until I was in my early 20s, I was already married and had a child, when my then husband surprised me with a trip to go visit my high school best friend who lived out in Arizona. She had moved to Phoenix. And I was petrified because I had never traveled by myself at all. And I had never even boarded an airplane. And I kind of white knuckled my way through that trip and really realized that there's a whole world out there that I hadn't seen. So that kind of planted the seed for I really need to get out more, because we become a creature of our own kind of environment sometimes. But that's where I really was kind of knowing that I want to do that more. So that was where the seed got planted.
Would you say that throughout all your travels, that would be the trip that really made the biggest impact on you? Or is there a place or a trip in general that you felt transformed by?
No, the biggest impact that I had personally was when I visited Ecuador and the Galapagos Islands. I was transformed by how connected people are to the land there. I was just transfixed by how much they valued the beauty that surrounded them. And, I loved how there were fresh fruit markets on every corner, it seemed like. They were everywhere. And it wasn't a landscape that was dotted with fast food restaurants like we see in the US a lot. Um, and they had just such a natural way of living there that I was truly inspired by that. I went to a place called El Chato Ranch, which is a giant tortoise sanctuary. And some of the tortoises that were there were hundreds of years old. And I was really struck by thinking about how much like the US landscape has changed over the last 100 years. But looking at these giant tortoises, their land is largely the same as it was when they were born. And I just was really transfixed by that. And that was where I learned to be really present, and using all five of my senses while I was there really kind of opened up a new world for me.
I love that. The Galapagos is still on my bucket list of places to go. I'm a big nature and animal wildlife person, so I like I see several friends go to the Galapagos and I'm just in awe of their photos and their stories and everything. So I can understand why that place would make such a big impact on you, as I think it definitely would for me. What
Yeah.
got you into holistic wellness? Can you share more about your story and your journey to that?
Sure. Well, before I traveled before I was a coach. I was a firefighter by trade. So I did that career for about 30 years. And through that journey, I knew as a female in a traditionally male dominated career, I needed to understand health and well-being. I needed to make myself strong enough and healthy enough to survive a 30-year career doing that. So I went to, the gym, and I learned how to eat what I thought was a good diet and all of that stuff. And in my mid 40s, I ended up with an autoimmune disease. And that really kind of set me back because I thought I was doing things the right way. And that was a big wake up call for me, honestly. And from that point, I knew that health and wellness was more than going to the gym and more than, eating an apple a day. And I was really kind of on a journey, on a mission to find the missing link. So I went back to school and I really dove deep into holistic health and wellness. And, it kind of opened up a whole new world for me. And combining the things that I love to travel and the health and well-being is kind of how I've ended up here doing what I'm doing today.
So can you, first of all, I am huge on holistic wellness. I love all these, I wouldn't say woo-woo things, but just anything that, I'm always watching TikToks or I have textbooks on these different holistic remedies, especially now that I have a son. What can I use for him, to avoid any sort of like, wherever we can, avoid, pharmaceuticals or anything. But um, so I love hearing that because I can understand why you going
Oh, I
back to
think we locked
school,
up.
why you going back to school would really open a whole new world for you, understanding and studying this because it really is absolutely fascinating. But can you share what is more of your journey or the connection between holistic wellness and what you've learned about and travel and autoimmune diseases?
Sure. So, my coaching philosophy is it's deeply rooted in kind of the belief that wellness extends beyond our physical, right? So it involves how we nurture our mind, how we nurture our body and our soul, and all of that has to work in harmony. Um, and by empowering women to kind of take that active role in their own health journeys, um, it really can open up a new world of healing for them. I talk a lot about how the one thing that I see time and time again when I'm coaching women, especially in my autoimmune coaching practice, is that their environment is the piece that kind of is always standing in the way. And we get to become such creatures of habit when we live in our house. We do things the same way. We start our day the same way. It's really difficult for us sometimes to create new habits. And that's where wellness travel really shines, is it provides a structure and an opportunity and an environment where someone can disconnect from their home, disconnect from their devices, and they really can kind of be with themselves in a place that's supportive and a place where they can connect with themselves in a way that they might not be able to connect with themselves in their home environment.
Can you share some examples for our listeners of like what could a wellness experience look like traveling when you talk about, these changes in environments and all these benefits that travel can bring for those, especially with autoimmune disease issues. What are some examples of that?
That's a great question. So in my program, we always start with what we need to eliminate in our lives. And when we talk about what we need to eliminate, that's a couple of different things. It can be the foods that we eat that are causing inflammation in our bodies. It can be some of the things in our environment, whether we're around pesticides or herbicides or things that are in our home, such as black mold, or maybe we're exposed to things like mercury or something along those lines. So I kind of do a little bit of a deep dive to try to get to the root of that. But when you go to a destination that is, designed to allow someone to eliminate those things from their diet that are causing inflammation and possibly learn how to cook maybe plant-based meals for the first time, or learn how to set up a space in their home where they can go and they can meditate, or they can go and they can journal, because they have experienced that during their wellness travel trip. That gives them the tools to understand how they can incorporate it into their lives when they're back home and back in their routines.
Yeah, I'm just thinking as you're explaining that all the time. I spent a lot of time in Southeast Asia, and I was just naturally gravitated towards, in particular, places like Thailand because of the fresh fruits and the sunshine and the fresh air, just everything that I felt like I could be my better, healthier self there. What you're exposed to, of course, they have all the fast food and stuff as well too, but just the options, the local markets, and being able to, buy food that is prepared right there in front of you on the streets and the street carts. And my favorite was always the fresh fruit smoothies in Bali and Thailand. Uh, gives you those opportunities. And sometimes in where we're from, the countries we live in, we don't really have that much access to stuff like that. And that what you consume has a huge impact on your overall health, how you feel, and all of the skin issues we might have, or a lot of these diseases we might be exposed to too. But can you share about, because you talked about your programs and everything, but what got you into wanting to become a travel coach?
Well, actually, I'll be quite honest. I looking back just 2 years, I didn't realize that travel coaching was even a thing. And when I saw your program advertised, I immediately had this like light bulb moment where it's like all of the things that I wanted to teach women or help women guide women toward, could all be kind of combined in one place. So it was a no-brainer for me once I read through the program and what it would give me, and I just didn't look back.
Yeah, I chuckle when you say I didn't know it was a thing, 'cause I hear that quite a bit, but it's so fascinating how fast travel coaching has grown over, especially over the past several couple of years now. Um, and getting more. I always ask people when they join the program or join our Facebook community, or anyone that comes my way, I say, how did you hear about us? And I'm getting more and more about Googling. So people are just naturally curious of travel coaching, and is it a thing? And it maybe, it's interesting for me because to see like, wow, people, something's going through their mind of, travel coach. What's a travel coach? Where did they get that word from? Because I know when I started the Travel Coach Network and my own wellness travel coaching business, I started that in 2018. I didn't even take the time to Google travel coaching even before I registered, the Travel Coach Network as my business and created that. So it's just so fascinating seeing it grow because I not that I think, I know travel is something that we all turn to for so many personal reasons, especially for healing, whether it's mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritual wellness. Can you talk about, what are some of your beliefs in wellness travel? Because wellness travel, the industry has catapulted since the pandemic has happened. And my beliefs is that there's always a lot more to wellness travel than what I say is gym, spas, yoga retreats, and wellness centers,
Mhm.
because of my own personal healing journey through travel and what I've was exposed to, and then my years of studying the wellness benefits of wellness travel. But in Colleen's perspective, what are some ways that if someone were to say, well, Colleen, how is travel healing? How can travel be wellness if I don't have all this money to go to a wellness center? What could that look like for me?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you asked that question because it's one of the things that I'm so passionate about. Um, you mentioned the pandemic, and I think that was the point in which a lot of people really started taking a hard look at their own health and well-being, like beyond just the physical. And for me, you know, nurturing the mind, body, and soul is in every aspect of my coaching practice. No matter if it's, I'm coaching women in autoimmune or I'm coaching women for wellness travel. And my favorite thing to do is to look at a town or a destination and find the wellness aspects in that location that aren't, like you said, spas and yoga and all of those things, because wellness extends so far beyond just those services. And I think when we take the time to look at the wellness travel as something that's not a service, based, it's not a service-based trip. It's what can I gain by traveling to this destination that will nurture my mind. So, for instance, maybe you're interested in art or you're interested in architecture or something along those lines, and you don't incorporate that into your day-to-day life. Just going to a place where you can see beautiful buildings and you can see art galleries is very nourishing to your mind and to your soul. And that can be wellness, or it can be, just walking through a really walkable downtown, such as like Reykjavik, Iceland. I love Reykjavik for that reason because it's such a walkable town and there's so much to see. And you can walk for miles and not realize that you've walked for miles. And that is nourishing your body just by getting out and walking through town. So if I can take a destination and show people how they can get some wellness aspects into their journey, at that destination, that really lights me up.
Yeah, that's so true. I always found that really fascinating as well. Especially now when I see all the headlines around wellness travel and I take a look at, what are the articles talking about? What are these companies doing that are so focused on wellness travel? And I see these price tags with these experiences, these services, like you say. And in particular, I focus a lot in the business travel world. And so it was these expensive spa treatments, and look at these menus, these spa menus that hotels came out with, and studying more about what hotels' perspective on wellness is for travelers, whether it's, aromatherapy in the bathroom and, a Peloton in their hotel room. And it's not saying that that's not wellness to some people or it can't be wellness, which it is, but I think travel is way too powerful of a vessel for healing than keeping people within the four walls of an establishment. There's a reason why we travel. It's studies have shown the benefits, not only if we're traveling for work, there's benefits for that, productivity, connection, creativity, innovation, but how can we access that if we're stuck within the four walls trying to, absorb the sense of wellness and healing here? So, there's just so many powerful blue spaces and green spaces that we can take into account when we travel. And that's something that I didn't realize when I was traveling. I always gravitated towards bodies of water and even just living too. I used to live in Chicago, and I lived by the lake. And I thought it was because I'm Aquarius, right? I was like, I just love water because I'm an Aquarius. But I realized that it was so healing to me, and I wasn't aware of how healing it was, why I was gravitating towards being at the beach, why I enjoyed the sun on my skin, why I enjoyed listening to the waves, why I enjoyed just breathing in that beach air. And not even just a beach, like lakes and ponds, anywhere that there's a beautiful body of water, especially those that like reflect the mountains off of them. I am just fulfilled and happy. So there's some sort of chemistry, a science in there, right? Of the powers of travel and wellness for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, being around nature and gravitating towards those aspects of nature that really light you up, whether you're a beach person or a mountain person, or, like you mentioned, the perfect destination for you is someplace where you can see both in one view. And knowing how that how that feels in your body when you're there in that moment, it really does help give you a sense of harmony in your soul. And I think that's really what we're missing in the way we do wellness in the US. You know, we look at it through the lens of, have I made it to the gym 3 or 4 times this week, or have I, got my 10,000 steps in a day, or did I have my, 1 serving of fruit and 2 servings of vegetables today? And we just have to really look at wellness as such a deeper aspect of, mental, emotional, all of those aspects of us being nurtured at the same time.
Yeah. And trends like, or the big topics like transformative travel and intentional travel, purposeful travel, even sustainable travel, responsible travel, slow travel, all of these I always say are an overlying umbrella of wellness, right? We transform to feel something different, to have a change in our life, to have a change in our mindset or our body or our soul. Um, and when we can take a look at, these trends in the travel industry, so to speak, it's heading towards and proving more of just how we as human beings turn to travel for healing purposes in so many different ways, right? Healing is a very, very broad word, and we need healing in so many different ways, but travel really can do that for us. But as travel coaches, we just believe that there has to be intention and awareness brought to the surface
Mm.
first in order for that to happen. Can you share a little bit about, what being in the travel coach network and what being in the travel coach certification program has done for you as a travel coach yourself?
Yeah, so one, I love the network of coaches that have gathered together and that help each other. I learned so much just from listening to some of the other travel coaches speak, because we all have this kind of specialty that we coach with, whether it's solo travel or wellness travel or eco travel, or all of those aspects, like you said, are very nurturing to us as a whole person. So just being in this network and being in this group and listening to these other coaches talk about what lights them up, I find little aspects of myself being lit up every time someone speaks. So that's the part I love. And like I was saying earlier, truly it's combining the two big passions of my life, the health and well-being, core philosophy that I have, that we all, have the ability to kind of take an active role in our own health and well-being, and then how much travel can help us in those ways. Whether it's just opening your mind to new cultures or ideas, or really just being in a destination that allows you to relax for the first time. So many of us are so stressed out that we don't even realize it. We don't even know what it feels like to fully let our bodies relax anymore. So, combining the health and well-being and the travel coaching is exactly what I feel like I was meant to do in the world.
No, we love hearing that. And we're so happy to have you in the Travel Coach Network.
Thank you.
We're coming towards the end of our conversation here today, but I always love to ask, is there a fun fact about yourself that you can share with the audience? It doesn't have to be business or travel related.
Well, we already talked about the fact that I was a firefighter. I think a lot of people think that that's a fun fact, because most people don't get an opportunity to meet many female firefighters. But outside of that, I guess the other fun fact about me is that I am a Great Dane mom for the second decade, I say. I have 2 Great Danes at home, and they both weigh more than I do, and they I call them my 180-pound toddlers, and because it's just like living in a house with 180-pound 3-year-olds. So
My gosh. Oh, yes, I do remember that. When we do our welcome, when people enroll in the program, I personally email and ask for a photo so we can post it on our Facebooks. And I do remember you sending one with your dogs. But
yeah.
yeah, I can imagine they're like, I'm 6 foot. So I think I've always said that Great Danes are like me and a human in a dog form.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
just
yeah, they are.
it's crazy how big they are, and I can imagine if they act like toddlers that they're climbing on you and laying on your lap and sleeping in your
Oh,
bed, and
yeah,
they don't realize just
all
how
the
big they
time.
are.
They they have no idea how big they are.
Well,
None.
perfect. Well, Colleen, where can everyone learn more about you, find and follow you?
Yeah, so I have created my travel coaching and wellness website called Holistic Health Traveler. So they can find my website at holistichealthtraveler.com, or they can follow me on Instagram at Holistic Health Traveler. And also Facebook, I have a group for Holistic Health Traveler as well.
Wonderful. Well, we will be sure to put all of those links in our show notes. Colleen, thank you so much for joining us today on the TCN podcast.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been a great conversation.
Wonderful. Everyone, please be sure to follow us on Instagram at the Travel Coach Network. Learn more at thetravelcoachnetwork.com. Come give us a hello in our TCN Global community on Facebook. You can find the link for that and your free beginner's guide to travel coaching, along with all of Colleen's links in our show notes. If you know anyone who may be interested in travel coaching, please be sure to send them our way. We would truly appreciate that. And until next time, my fellow wanderers, bye for now.